Hello, hello, everyone. This is Tiffany,
Hey, it's Matt.
and welcome to Real Women Love Sports. So, this is the first Sunday of the NFL. No more Sundays without football until February. So, first Sunday, great. But we kicked off our NFL season on Wednesday watching that Cowboys game. Now, wasn't it amazing?
It sure was. It sure was. And it was a shocker too. It was.
It may have been a shocker to him. It wasn't a shocker to me. I'm expecting big things from my boys this year. Uh, Cole Beasley, Dez. I'm expecting big things. But
Ogletree.
the shot. Oh man, Ogletree. That was the shocker. That was all I was gonna say. That was the shocker. Ogletree getting his first two touchdowns in his NFL career on Wednesday. And I mean, that's the way to start off the season. I'm only expecting you to do more and more bigger things this year. So can't wait for that to see all of that happen. So yeah, that was a great start off or a great kickoff to me, to see the Cowboys do that, especially at the Giants. One, they're the current Super Bowl champions, and two, we had a big struggle with them last year that, man, no Cowboys fan will forget. And three, because this is the first time in many years that a home team has lost their opening game.
Yeah, and the Cowboys really stepped up. I mean, they've made a lot of changes with training camp. I mean, even their training camp was in a different place than it was last year.
Yes.
So with that being said, Coach Garrett, he's looking at big things. I mean, there's big expectations. From Romo, from Demarcus Ware, and these are the guys who've been in the league for a while, and they know what it takes, and they know what they and they're thirsty. And to have these players, like Ogletree, who stepped up, his first touchdown since he's been in the league in what 4 years.
Yeah.
So that's something to to really that's something that you really want to start your season out with.
Now, it's hard for the Cowboys fans to not think of last year, to not think of the things we did. So when we're talking Cowboys, we are always looking at what previously happened. And it's hard to not say you were not watching that game and then halfway through the third quarter thinking, God, we're about to give this away again. Because that is typically, we weren't able to finish. We didn't finish a lot. When Romo threw that interception, it was like, oh, heartbreaking. Already, first game. But you know what? The Cowboys finished. They finished strong. They did not lose any stride or spirit due to that. And they pulled away a victory. And they got those first downs when needed. And that is something that we did not see last year. We saw their spirits break. We saw them give up on games halfway through. We saw them have leads to just be swept away and lost. Um, so it's a difference. It's a difference even in Tony. You can see that difference in Romo. And you sit back and you think of the things that have changed in him. And someone mentioned he's a father now. This year is Tony's first year in the NFL as a father. Now, a lot of you may be thinking, what does him having being a father have to do with him playing football? But those of you that are parents know that being a parent changes you. It changes a lot of things that you normally would do, in a lot of ways you look at things. It was always said Tony Romo was not a leader and he didn't know how to lead. He was very quiet. We had people like Witten stepping up, being the leader of the team and not your quarterback. Could it be, especially, we had the last minute Witten getting eligible. It was like a game time decision whether or not he was going to play, and he played, and everybody said that his presence there was all that was needed. That was an inspiration because he's so inspirational to the team. But could it also be that maybe Tony Romo, as a father, is finding his stride in being a good leader?
And I was listening to a couple of announcers, talk about this game and even some of the games today, and there's appears to be a running joke, in the NFL, saying that Romo can only give you 2 quarters. He can only give you 2 quarters, and I'm not a Romo fan, but to actually see the way that he stepped up and he came through despite having that interception, the way that he maintained his composure, the way he led the team was something, and that was a good job on Romo's part.
Like I said, I think we're seeing a new Tony Romo, a different Tony Romo. We're seeing one that is finding a new stride as a person, as a husband, as a father, and now as a leader. And I think that leadership in Tony Romo is what was missing from the Cowboys. I mean, it's nice to have leaders. It's nice to have Witten there. It's nice to have other people there that can lead. But to have Tony Romo, your quarterback, I mean, honestly, the one that is the brunt of the criticism in the Cowboys. We all know when people criticize the Cowboys, they don't say anything bad about Witten. They don't, say too much about Miles. The only complaint people have about Dez is his off the field thing. But Tony got some bad nicknames. We're not even gonna say him on the air, but he is never called Tony Romo. We all know that. So it's always criticized of Tony Romo, and it's because he's the quarterback. He's the leader of the team, and for him not to lead was a big thing. And I think if things have changed, and if Tony has developed a voice and has become a leader of this team, we are in for some great things as Cowboys fans.
And I can't wait for the season. I mean, the next game is Seattle. That would be exciting. I know a lot of people are even looking forward to the Saints game.
Yeah.
So those can be a couple of games to look forward to. Outside of the obvious, you got the Redskins and the rest of the NFC East that they're playing against. But it is going to be an exciting season, especially when you got Ogletree, who it was surprising. So my question here to Cowboys fans, even football fans in general, give us a call at 805-727-7099, is that now you have Ogletree who set this bar so high. Can he pace himself throughout the rest of the season? I mean, this is his first touchdown, his first 2 touchdowns ever in his NFL career, and he's been in the league 4 years. So has he set himself too high? Is he setting himself up for maybe within a couple of games halfway through the season going to Jerry, going to Jason and saying, hey, I've done this, I want more money?
More money. Let's not do that. Let's not become one of those players who, I did something good in the league this year. I'm, making records or whatever. I want to make more money. I mean, in a sense, let's not become the MJD of the Cowboys. Uh, that being said, we know that Jacksonville played today. Everybody was expecting to see big things from MJD, seeing if he could come back, if he missed a stride, if he missed a step. And I think today it was answered. You should have just stuck to going to training camp instead of trying to get more money.
I mean, he started and only been back 2 games, and and they lost. Who was it? 23-26.
23-26. They lost, but he didn't. This was his first game back against Minnesota, and it wasn't a good look for the Jaguars. You could clearly see, in my opinion, that he had some shortcomings and it's some things he needed to do. So that was not a good game for him. It was a amazing game for Adrian Peterson, but and actually it was a very good game for Blaine, and that kind of we were saying earlier is kind of a slap in the face because you have MJD there, and it was like you said all this stuff for what you were gonna do, and and what you meant to this team and blah blah blah, and yet you let kind of a rookie show you up, and it to me it was difficult. It was difficult to see that. It was difficult to watch. So between MJD and Rashad Jennings, they need to get it together.
And that's kind of where your modesty and your humility should come to play. I mean, you're holding out because you want more money, but when it's time when you actually play, after they let you come back and play, you don't back it up. And I
Well,
just want to know what the owner's thinking. Like, did we really make a mistake? Is it, oh, he hasn't been in training camp, but he hasn't been in training camp because X, Y, and Z. So
yeah, but you know what? At the same time, I mean, I'm hard on him because he did the holdout thing. You lost more money in the end. You didn't get any new money in the. Your management team sucked and kind of blew you up out the water. But also, let's keep in mind he did not do training camp. He is learning. He had an old playbook, so he's learning the new plays, and we'll give him some time, and we'll see what he can do. But as far as this first game, not impressive, not impressive at all. So we'll see what becomes of it throughout the season. But like I said, this was the kickoff to the NFL. So right now there are several games still being played. The Packers game is still going on. Um, Aaron Rodgers is looking good out there, but the Cowboys, the Packers
yeah,
are
that's not
hard
conclusive too.
on some penalties. They are, you know, I kind of stopped watching the game to do this, but I think they were up like 9 penalties or something when we started the show. So it was insane. But right now, the game is 23-7. They are falling really short with San Francisco. Um, like I said, when Aaron Rodgers had, that made that 7 points, he moved the ball pretty good. He looked pretty good out there. But cohesively as a team, they need to step it up because they are not doing as projected right now. Another game that was kind of shocking to me was the Saints game. The Saints lost their game today. That was definitely not expected. I think I kind of expected them to lose just because everybody else expected them to win. Everybody expected them to come out with this like fire with everything that's been going on in the league with the lawsuits and the not having a coach thing, and they thought they were going to come out there just to prove to the NFL, look, we can do this with the coach, without a coach, we know what we're doing. We're going to show you type deal. And because so much emphasis was put on that and so much attention was showed to it and what was expected, I thought they would come out there and kind of crumble. They didn't crumble. They had a pretty close game, but they did fall short and they lost their game.
So, I mean, with that being said, the game of football is a physical game. It's very physical, and just like any other game or anything else, it's mental. So, do you think that the fact that the bounties that were brought forth played effect into how they play?
I don't know. I think teams are. That being said, teams are gonna come out and be more physical with them to kind of be like, oh, you want to push us around? We gonna show you how to be pushed around. That's my opinion of it. I think the media's opinion a lot is that they're gonna come out and kind of show the NFL what's for and whatever. Um, I think it's just gonna be a regular season. I mean, talent in game is gonna speak for itself. I don't think that they can get more fired up. I mean, if you couldn't get, well, obviously they did. They won the Super Bowl. But if you were getting that fired up with money on people's heads, that's like what the ultimate motivational tool. What else is there is
So give us a call. Let us know what you think. 805-727-7099. Go ahead and leave us a message on the Twitter feed at Real Women Love Sports.
Yeah. So now we have about 15 minutes left in the show. Real quick, I do want to say Because of some things that were going on, we pushed back our draft, and the draft for the fantasy league is tomorrow. So it's in 1 day, 3 hours and 43 minutes. It is tomorrow at 9:30. What's that, Central Time, and
Yeah,
10:30
9:30 Central.
Eastern. So I have posted it on our Facebook. I've also posted it on Twitter. So make sure you join and get your team set up, because we will be drafting tomorrow.
And if you have any questions how it's done, you never done before, go ahead and send us a message, and then we'll go ahead and explain to you and kind of guide you through the process.
Yes. Now, we are going to move on to what I think is a very special story to me. Go ahead, Matt.
So, to all the unfortunate Duke fans, and I say unfortunate because you're Duke fans, go Tar Heels. Do you guys remember what happened December 21st, 2009? Probably not.
No.
Okay, Lance Thomas. Everybody knows Lance Thomas. Okay, so apparently Lance Thomas went into a jewelry store in Manhattan and bought about $68,000 worth of jewelry. Okay, and $68,000 to a college student is a lot of money. Okay, well, not only did that, but he bought his jewelry and did $30,000 down payment. Okay, $30,000 down payment with the balance to be paid in 2 weeks, 15 days. Well, that money never came. So now there's a lawsuit from the jewelry store against Lance Thomas. Well, with that being said, of course the NCAA is going to step in, and if, depending on how things fall through, Duke is looking at forfeiting all of their wins since December 21st, in which Lance Thomas played, in addition to forfeiting that championship. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So my question to you is, should the NCAA allow Duke to forfeit that championship? Okay? And with all the things that have gone on with Derrick Rose and and USC the last few years, why is Duke stepping in? Why is the NCAA stepping in? Why are they even allowing for that to be a possibility? Okay, and the whole thing boils down to, $30,000 is a lot for a college student, let alone any American, any person.
Yeah.
And so where does this money come from? Is it coming from boosters? Is it coming from family? And even the interesting thing, and of course the NCAA wants to, if everything is true, they want to forfeit all the wins to vacate the championship. Well, they're holding Duke liable. They're holding the colleges liable for
this is my problem.
Them.
If you are going to strip them of their championships, strip them of their wins, whatever the case may be, that to me makes it seem like the college was knowledgeable of this. Like the college knew, Coach K knew that this was something that was known, and that's how you get your title stripped. But if this is some kid that went out and got some jewelry, and Coach K knew nothing of it, which, I don't think, as a fan, that Coach K knew, but if you take a title and you take wins, that's what that means to me, that the university did some wrongdoing. And in this, I don't see the university doing any wrongdoing. I see the player doing something wrong.
It definitely, Duke educated the players as far as what they can and cannot do when it comes to purchases. Okay, now the NCAA is trying to figure out whether or not this jewelry store gave them a $68,000 loan for just because he's an athlete, or just because. Was it a verbal contract? Was it a written contract? So with that being said, is that allowed? And even the more interesting thing is Lance Thomas hid the jewelry from the coaches,
which means that they didn't know about it. And this is the problem I have, because these companies are going out and they're doing things. They're giving kids jewelry. We've seen it with Dez, and people are just doing stuff, jewelry, cars, houses, whatever, clothes, and then they're coming back years later and suing them. Like, that, who does that make look bad?
And,
they're talking about college kids. When I was in college, if somebody would have been like, here's a new car, okay, we talked about this last year. You have players and kids that come from not having things. Then you stick them in these universities. The universities are making a ton of money. They cannot have a job. They see all this flashy stuff, and then you literally put it in front of their face to give it to them, and you expect them not to bite. But then 2 years later, you want to come back and sue them over something they did when they were in college?
That just goes to show how grimy these people are, especially when you're in these college towns. I mean, we've heard about it. We talked about it with last year with Ohio State. Then there's an incident with University of Memphis and Derrick Rose forfeiting the entire season, including the runner-up. There's USC with Reggie Bush. So I mean, it goes to show that if you're if you're an athlete in Division One city, Division One school, you can't trust anybody. I mean, that goes from the agents that come around, that goes from the boosters, that comes from the runners. I mean, that comes from even the McDonald's, because you're not even sure the McDonald's, they'll loan you a piece of equipment for a party, and next thing you know, you're getting sued.
Well, even still, I mean, you gotta look at it. These kids are in college, and you look at these actors and even these athletes, big athletes now. They get clothes or they get shoes, they get whatever, and they're on TV and they say, "Oh, I got this from such and such," and you get it free or discounted just because you're giving them advertisement. Could it be that since he didn't go as big as they thought he would go or they wanted him to go, that
because right now
he didn't get the plug? He's in the D League
for the Hornets.
Right, so he's in the D League. Nobody really cared. I mean, he was bigger as a Duke, Devil than he is right now in the D League.
And that's been brought up, and what they're saying is that if he was giving us loan based off his status, then what they saying was happening before was that they go ahead and give you a loan now, and then your payments don't begin until draft day, assuming that you're going to be a lottery pick, assuming that you're going to go, high in the draft, but that wasn't the case. This happened towards the end of the season. So what's the deal? And maybe it's just a grimy jewelry store.
And like you said earlier, he paid a down payment and it was due in 15 days. So
was that a good faith?
Was the 15 day? When did the 15 days fall? Did the 15 days fall around draft time? Or were the 15 days totally out of the draft realm? Because if that's the case,
it's out of it because it happened December 21st.
Right. So then, if that's the case, where did you expect him to get the rest of his money from in 15 days? That to me does not reek of student, but reeks of an agent.
But if I'm not mistaken, I believe he's on an academic scholarship.
Right,
so
but
he's not
that
even on
reeks of an agent is what I'm saying. No body will be. I have seen many of players in college that drove new cars, and we had no clue where they come. They weren't flashy cars, but it was like a Honda, a brand new Honda, or something reasonably priced, but a brand new car for a person that's never had a job. So you kind of go, where'd you get this car from? And it's, oh, my agent bought it for me. Of course, you're not supposed to have an agent while you're in college, but this is something that an agent did, and then later on recoup their money once you started playing, whether it be overseas, NBA, D-League, ABA, whatever. But if you're going to give someone jewelry and say the remaining payment is due in 15 days, and they're still a college student in 15 days, that seems to me like you were expecting the money from someone else.
But, and I think
it seems to me like maybe an agent was supposed to pay for the rest of that and then get his money back at a later time.
And I think as far as the NCAA, I think it raised a red flag because of the details of the lawsuit. I think because they're saying this kid came in, he played for Duke, he made this elaborate purchase, and we didn't get paid. So I think because of everything else, because the history of these lawsuits and these vacating wins and things like that, I honestly think it makes sense for the NCAA to step in just to investigate, just to see what's going to happen. And they're saying if everything is true, then this is what they're going to do. They're not saying this is a definite regardless. They're saying if it's true, if if it was given to him, based off his eligibility because of his status, then that's what we're going to do. We're going to vacate the wins, and I mean that's not fair for Coach K, especially when Coach K didn't know anything about it. If the organization, if the school did not know, did not have a clue, an inkling of an idea of what was going on, I don't think you should punish him. I think even though it doesn't, the NCAA and the NBA doesn't necessarily cross, I think at some point in time you need to say, hey, this is what's going on. He made a legal move. He needs to be punished now, and whether that's taking away pay, having him being suspended without pay in the NBA, that's something they need to consider. But and whether or not he was eligible when it happened, was he a natural player? I mean, what the details as of yet are not clear. But I know we'll be reporting on this, as soon as more details come about. But it's not fair for Duke, and it's just another quote unquote NCAA scandal. It's not even the football. It's not even about. It's another scandal.
Yeah, I think that it's sad because I think a lot of these students, like I said, are being held to a really thin line and a really core structured boundary. I mean, they're being put in these impossible situations. I mean, anytime I talk to anyone that reflects on their college years, they're like, I was eating ramen, the weird box Easy Mac stuff, and getting, going to places. I know someone that said they met their wife and married their wife because they were in college and she made them a home cooked meal, and he was like, I should date her because then I can eat real food. And they eventually married them. So I mean, like, these are things that go through college students' heads. So think of being in college, struggling to paying $500 for a book and then turning it back in for $30 and eating ramen every day, but then someone comes up to you and says, you want some jewelry, or you want a car, or you want a this, or you want a that. I mean, you know that you're not supposed to do it, but, I mean, you're not killing, stealing, or robbing, so you don't really think of it as being, a big deal, and you know that you're going to make that, and it's even worse when it's from someone who you've gained trust with. We all know that the agent thing is like, that's near and dear to my heart. So when you become an agent, it is something that you have people's careers and their trust and their all of that in their hands. So when you do things like advise them badly before their career has even taken off, to where, and like I said, this is not a fact, but this is what I think when just looking at all the details. If you're going to give a college student jewelry, if he made a down payment that is really unlikely of a college student to have $30,000 to just buy jewelry with, and then if you were expecting your remaining balance in 15 days, that doesn't sound like something you would expect of a college student from me. We've seen before and we've heard before that, you get a car, people give you a car, like Matt said, that you get a car and you put a dollar down payment on it, and you have to get your rest of your payments on draft day. That makes sense of something that people would do for a star athlete, but this reeks of someone else being at the wheel of this and not the student. So, we have to start wrapping up. We have about a minute left. So go ahead and send us your responses on Facebook and on Twitter. Real quick, I want to say before we get off, we want to make sure we're praying for the Tulane safety who is still, I think he's unconscious or something. They're waiting for him to get stabilized so that they can repair his spine fracture. He had a head-on collision with another one of his players during the game. So you never want to see a player hurt, especially a young college student, and that, like I said, they're there to get an education, and this is, their way of doing it and furthering their dreams and their careers. So we definitely want to make sure that we're praying for him and take a moment out to just to think of his family. So like I said, make sure you check us out on our draft. And anything else?
That's it.
All right, we'll see you next week. Same place, same time, same woman. Real Women Love Sports.